Very important medical disclaimer. Information provided in this podcast is for educational purposes only and does not substitute for professional medical advice. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or treatment before undertaking a new health regimen. Welcome to the Holistic Health Explained podcast. I'm your host, Shantae Fox, and my guest for today's episode is Jose Tomas, owner of Tortuga Acupuncture. Jose attended the New England School of Acupuncture in Newton, Massachusetts, and was awarded a master's degree in acupuncture and oriental medicine. During this time at NESA, he was involved with the advancement of acupuncture through research and worked on several projects examining the effectiveness of acupuncture. These projects including using acupuncture as an effective form of treatment for veterans with post-traumatic stress disorder through the U.S. Department of Defense and the use of Tai Chi as an alternative form of cardiac rehabilitation. Being part of research projects like this and seeing how results can be duplicated, it was clear to him the benefits of acupuncture. He knew this information needed to be shared with people looking for an efficient and effective healthcare method. Searching for resources to find a method to integrate acupuncture into existing healthcare systems, Jose continued his studies at the Massachusetts College of Health Sciences. There he continued the pursuit of examining acupuncture and learned how to present acupuncture to conventional healthcare providers. It was also there that he received a doctoral degree for acupuncture and integrative health. Jose is currently licensed as an acupuncturist in the state of Arizona and licensed nationally for acupuncture and Chinese herbs through the National Certification Commission for Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine. He currently works with local tribal communities in Arizona providing integrative health services with acupuncture as well as having his private practice here in Tempe. He enjoys providing results for pain management of chronic conditions, oncology supportive care, and Chinese herbal formulas. He also provides instruction of movement using Tai Chi principles and Qigong as a meditative practice. Welcome, Jose, and thank you for being here today to tell us a bit about acupuncture and maybe a little bit about Chinese herbs too.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. But before we start, I'm going to ask you my icebreaker question that I've been asking everybody. Would you please share a fun fact or something not many people may know about you?
I play music horribly, even though my family is musically inclined.
You didn't get that gene, huh?
No, I didn't. I
Oh,
didn't.
man.
So
Do you have an instrument that you try to play?
there was several along the lines. So my grandfather is a violist, and he was a conductor for Guatemala and Baltimore Symphony.
Oh, wow.
So everyone in the family has some kind of instrument, trumpets, strings. I couldn't play anything, so I can make a lot of noise though.
So you're the black sheep of the family going off doing something totally different, huh?
Yes, I had to find my own little way off doing something different, but yeah, I didn't have that music bug in that sense.
You're doing something great anyway with what you do, right?
Yes, yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and dive into your world of acupuncture. I'm sure you probably come across many people who may be intimidated or scared by the word acupuncture, what they believe it may be, because they've seen pictures on the internet or whatever of people with all these little tiny needles stuck around their bodies, right?
Yeah.
So today, let's dispel any myths or misconceptions that people might have about acupuncture. Okay, well, let's first explain what exactly is acupuncture, if you will. Give us like a little, brief rundown of what exactly is it, maybe where it comes from or how it originated, and then how did you even become interested in this field of work?
Yeah, so acupuncture really easy. There's specific points on the body that create some kind of stimuli within the brain and in the body. Those points get activated with the insertion of a needle or a pin. And that's basically at a base level what acupuncture is. Those areas have an effect on the body. So if you have a tight muscle, um, it can loosen up that muscle. It can improve the circulation. It can build the immune.
Okay.
And those are some of the effects of having that area stimulated.
Okay.
Um, the needles that we use in acupuncture are really thin. They're hair-like. And they're a one-time use only. I think that's one stereotype that people think is that we reuse needles.
Okay. I hadn't even
And
thought about that, but
yeah,
yeah, good thing to point out.
they're one-time use only. They come in a sterile container, and most of the time, what people feel is just a tube being placed against their skin. So there's a guide tube that helps with the insertion of needles. And it's that usually is the sensation that people will feel. Um, and at worst, if they feel anything, it's like a little pinch.
Yeah, I can
So
attest to that. I've had it done before, so I can say I don't remember ever feeling like I was being pricked by a needle.
yeah, it's really calming actually.
Yeah.
And usually by the second needle, people start feeling pretty relaxed,
Yeah.
and they start feeling the benefits from it.
Right.
So um,
So now you can tell us maybe how you even fell into this line of work or how you became interested in acupuncture.
yeah, that's really interesting. I I would say throughout my life I had some pretty interesting people around me. Um, some people would even call them like healers.
Mhm.
They had this innate awareness of how the body works and how to create conditions where the body could heal. Um, and these people were always around me, so I'd always get to see it. Watch them and see about, just ask questions, and see, like how are you doing that? What are you doing? Um, and then, I don't know, maybe when I was probably about 14 or 16, I had a really good friend of mine, um, who was part of a dance group. And she couldn't tour with the group because she always would get sick.
Mm.
And she had this weird sickness that was draining her energy, making her really weak, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong with her.
Mm.
A teacher of mine had a friend, and we were all at this gathering, and he just asked her, he was like, "Do you mind if I try some things with you?" And she was like, "Okay." So we cleared off the table. The
Right there
office,
and there,
yeah, it was
huh?
like the office desk just got cleared off.
Okay.
She laid there. It was like everybody was there, and we were like just seeing like, well, what's going to happen? What's this that's going
Mm-hmm.
on? And he started hitting points on her body.
Mm-hmm.
He would hit the points, and then she would like get a sensation in her mouth, certain taste, and then that would indicate what other points he was going to use. So it was like this dialogue that he had with their body.
So he would touch this
Um,
point, and then he would maybe ask her what she was tasting or something like that. And
yes, like
okay.
what sensation was in the mouth that she was experiencing, and that would guide him to the other points that he was using. And this dialogue was going back and forth for, maybe about 30, 45 minutes. Finally, when he got to the end, he hit some points and he asked her what she was feeling or tasted. She said she didn't have any taste in her mouth.
Hmm.
So at that point in time, he was like, "Okay, just take your time, relax, and when you're ready, you can get up." And she got up. She was like, "Oh, okay," like didn't really experience anything or feel much. But later on, she noticed that her energy was normal. She didn't have the weakness in her body,
Hmm.
and she stayed like that for a while. Eventually started coming back because it was one treatment.
Right.
Um, and he ended up leaving, so he wasn't available here in Arizona. And but seeing that and experiencing that and learning that, like I say, you can create conditions for the body to heal because the
Right.
body already knows what it needs to do. That's
Right.
that's its process. I mean, we regenerate skin, we regenerate hair. Our cells are always multiplying. They're always rebuilding. So as long as everything is healthy, then we're able to continue along that that process. So
So that was your first taste of what
yeah,
acupuncture. He wasn't using the needles at that time, but same concept, right?
yeah. So yeah, what he was basically using was like later on you see is like an advanced form of like qigong, you know, just being just creating that stimuli off of the touch and being able to activate the points
Okay.
through that to kind of I call it like helping the body. It's almost like bumper playing bumper like bowling with the
Mhm.
bumper rails on the side.
Okay. Yeah.
It's kind of just providing that support so then that way you can get the body to go the way it needs to go. So
Nice. So that was pretty early on in your life. You said you were about 14 when that happened?
yeah, about 15, 16.
Okay.
And then after that, I ended up meeting a really nice lady who who she would sell Chinese herbs.
Mm-hmm.
And normally you're not supposed to sell herbs openly at that point in time because like acupuncture and herbs wasn't really regulated at that point in
Right.
time.
Okay.
But she was nice. She saw my interest and she kind of like took me in. And she would sell me the herbs and I would make like topical formulas back then. And that was after a while of meeting with her and talking with her, she told me that you could go to school for that. So it was like a little bug,
Right. Plant
or
the
like
seed.
yeah, yeah, like a pebble, right?
Yeah.
And it's just okay, it's there, and the ripples were made. Um, and later on, I ended up finding out that you could actually go to school and learn it, and so that's what I ended up doing. And I was at Mass.
Okay. So it's like almost your whole life was kind of leading you in that direction just
Yeah,
throughout.
yeah, it's funny how that happens.
Yeah.
It's almost I don't know if things are like pre-designed, but I think there's aspects that are, if we're a healer or, if we're meant to help somebody else,
Mhm.
eventually we'll get into that
You'll
situation.
find yourself, yeah,
Yeah.
there. I think if you're open, that's what I'm learning about myself, even is just once I started doing the work on myself and opening up those channels to be able to listen and to hear, what the universe was telling me to do and what direction to go, then
Mhm.
it just all started flowing naturally, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's like the nature of things,
Yeah.
right? And a lot of times we try to work outside of that box because we think
Mhm.
we have a little bit more control, but
Right.
nature's the one that sets the path. So we just have to learn
Exactly.
how to flow with that.
Yeah. Exactly. So who would benefit from acupuncture? What does your typical patient look like or who comes to see you?
So well, for acupuncture itself, it's a broad spectrum. Acupuncture could be for children, all the way up to elders. And then within that broad stroke of acupuncture, it just depends on your provider, what they specialize, because people take interests, right? No
Yeah.
different than regular medicine, where you have your orthopedics or your podiatrists, pediatrics. You have your specialties. So people
Okay.
will have their own field that they kind of like lean towards. For myself, I'm typically dealing with sports injuries,
Mhm.
and then just everyday aches and pains, as far as clientele, and then just general wellness. Because using acupuncture is really good as a preventative
I
medicine.
was just gonna ask
That's where you see it kind of like excels, like people are doing that, and like maybe they're fighting with allergies their whole life. Start doing acupuncture, all of a sudden now they don't have that seasonal allergy,
that. I didn't
and then they keep
think I
on.
knew you could use it for allergies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so thinking about just allergies, the immune system is overreacting. So just settling it, regulating it, keeping everything in balance, and then as things go on, you're just doing like maybe one treatment a month 1 to 2 treatments, and then that's maintenance, and it keeps, like I said, allergies away.
Interesting. That's good to know.
Mm.
Do you include your Chinese herbs into your sessions or, prescribe, if that's what you would call it, to your patients?
Yeah, I make suggestions. Sometimes people come in and they just want herbs. So if that's the case, then I can write a prescription for them, and they can go to. I give them options where they can get the prescription filled.
Okay. So you
Um,
don't actually you're not in there whipping up some
Not at this
patches and
moment
stuff.
in time. Yeah, 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 yeah. Not at this moment in time.
Okay.
There's different ways to do it. So, herbs could be granulated, which is probably the easiest way,
What
because
does
it's
that
almost
mean?
like instant coffee. So you
Okay.
just
Okay.
put the powders together, put some hot water on there, and then you mix it up, and you're good to go.
Okay.
Versus when you use like raw herbs, that takes a little bit of time because sometimes you have to prepare the herbs.
Mhm.
So maybe you have to like cook it with like vinegar or ginger, put something else in there to kind of activate the herb in a specific way, depending on the condition the person's with dealing
Okay.
with, and then cook everything all down, and then use the juice from that. So
Yeah, that sounds a bit more of a process.
yeah, it's a process, and it could be
Ways for me to
smelly.
do. Can
Yeah.
it?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
sometimes it could be really smelly too. So
Okay.
if you don't like the earthy smell, then I would definitely suggest going towards the granules.
Where does one, so if you do this, prescribing for the herbs, where does
Mm.
one go pick them up?
Some that's there. There's a distributor that's in Chandler, and then there's one down in the school in Phoenix.
Okay.
They
Are they
have an
just like a
open
herb shop
dispensary.
type of thing, or are they
They have
actually
a
like you
medicinary.
have a prescription to get what you prescribe?
It's a prescription, so they're
Okay.
they're going to validate the practitioner, make
Okay.
sure that they're licensed,
Mhm.
as far as safety, because some of the herbs can be dangerous. People have a concept that herbs are safe, and they
Right.
are, but herbs are medicine, right?
Right.
But before you had that drug or that pill, it was in a herbal plant. It was in
Right.
some kind of plant,
Yeah.
and that plant was used for whatever condition that it's being used for now.
And this is its
S-
purest form, so I'm sure that can be
Yeah.
pretty potent.
Yes, yes. So, there should always be caution there
Okay.
for using herbs.
Yeah. Yes, of course. Um, well, can you give us maybe like a little visual of what a session would look through? Like walk us through a typical session for a first timer?
Yeah. So when you come in and receive an acupuncture treatment, typically you'll fill out just like you went to your doctor. You fill out a intake form,
Mhm.
maybe like a health history, just to get an overall idea of your health. You'll come in, speak with the provider or your practitioner, um, and then once everything gets kind of settled, where there's a background, talk more in depth about the condition that you want worked on.
Okay.
Um, the pulse will be felt. The tongue should be looked at. And then once that information is gathered, your provider will come up with a treatment plan. And typically that varies depending on the style, but needles could be between 10 to 12
Okay.
needles used per treatment. And then the session can vary between 30 to 45 minutes.
Okay. And I'm guessing the placement of the needles just depends on what you're actually
Yeah,
dealing with or what you're treating.
what you're dealing
Okay.
with, if it's there's a lot of different aspects, and the like I said, the best way to explain acupuncture is that we're creating a stimuli. So depending on what's going on the body, that can dictate how long the needles need to be in the body, where they need to be placed, and even how they can be inserted.
Okay.
Those are factors because they're going to create a different stimuli, where that'll create the change in the body.
Okay.
So, and just to give an example, if somebody is experiencing a acute condition, like let's say they went out, they hurt their arm, so now they have shoulder pain. You don't on something like that, you don't need to have the needles in for like 45 minutes.
Okay.
It's a excess condition, so that means it's brand new, and it's really intense. So just leaving the needles in for, maybe 10 to 15 minutes.
That's good.
You'll get a lot of therapy from that,
Hmm.
a lot of response. So it doesn't need to. If somebody's depleted, where they've been kind of, we describe it as burning the candle on both ends,
Mhm.
um, then that person could benefit from having the needles in a lot longer.
Okay. So that's just something you'll determine once you meet with your patient,
Yes.
see what they're dealing with.
Yeah, I think one of the other nice things about acupuncture is that it's personal.
Yeah.
You come in, you might have back pain, and maybe the person that's with you might have back pain too, but you experience it two different ways.
Hmm.
You might just experience the back pain and say, "Oh, my spine hurts." The other person may experience it as, "You know what? I got low energy.
Hmm.
I don't feel motivated." So now all of a sudden it's a physical ailment that's impairing their mental condition.
Okay.
And
Gotcha.
that's the way they experience it is mentally,
Hmm.
where the other person may experience it physically.
That's interesting.
So then the treatment needs to be adjusted depending on how the person's experiencing that. And
Okay.
you have to say it. So you can't say, "Oh, you have this. Okay, I'm gonna just do this on you."
Right.
Um, it,
Very personalized.
yes, yes.
Okay. How might someone feel after receiving a session? Is that something that people can just get up and go back to work after a session, or should they take it easy for the day?
Most of the time, people can go back into the flow, and
Yeah.
they'll feel better. They'll feel rejuvenated. They'll feel fresh,
Okay.
relaxed. Um, a lot of times, I tell people if they have pain, I tell them to be careful because a lot of times they'll feel a lot better afterwards.
They
And
feel
then
like they can just do anything.
yeah, like they do cartwheels and stuff, walking back to
Yeah.
work, and it's like, oh, you're going to hurt yourself again, so be gentle to
Hmm.
yourself. So a lot of times they feel better. The sleep a lot of time is the first thing people notice after a
Hmm.
treatment,
Better
because
sleep.
they end up having a lot better sleep, deeper, more restful. So
You're making
yeah.
me want to go get a session right now. All these things you're saying, I'm like, oh, I could use that. Oh, yeah, I could use that.
Yeah, it's I mean it's good medicine, it just the bodies respond really, really well. And it just makes you feel good.
Good. Okay. How often do you recommend patients come back? I'm guessing that's probably individual too, and kind of depends on what they have going on, right?
Yeah, so if a person has an acute condition, I would say more treatments. If a person is looking at preventative, then less treatments.
Okay.
And the other part is the way the body responds. So sometimes, if a body has been neglected for a while, it may need a little bit more to be able to stimulate it or reactivate it. Way to think about it is that, if somebody is asleep, if they're a heavy sleeper, you just can't shake the doorknob. Right?
Right.
Somebody's a light sleeper, you shake the doorknob, boom, they're up and
Hmm.
they're responding.
Right.
And that's the way usually kids respond to acupuncture or
Hmm.
massage. You
Okay.
just do a little points and boom,
Good.
yeah, they're really good. But somebody who's been for a while, they might be that really lethargic person that's there, and in there slamming cabinets and everything, and they're still not, waking up. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it depends on the person, and you know, uh, I think the best rule of thumb for that is that if you have something that's extreme and it's active, you're going to have a couple more treatments. So maybe 2 to 3 treatments a week.
Mhm.
Um, and if you don't, 1 to 2 a month. And
Okay.
then depending on how you're able to do it, that'll dictate the success that you experience.
Okay. Now, I know, is acupuncture usually something that people can get covered through healthcare, like through their insurance provider?
So a lot of insurances are doing it. Even Medicare and Medicaid is offering it. That's a little bit different from the norm, because they have some stipulations in there
Okay.
for that. But for the standard person that has insurance, usually it's between 10 to 12 treatments that they'll offer, and they'll cover through the insurance.
Okay.
and then it'll depend on whatever your copayment is.
Right.
Yeah. And then your provider. So some
Yeah.
providers don't take insurance,
Mm-hmm.
some do, and that's just going to depend on the provider themselves.
Right.
In worst case scenarios, you can always get a what they call a super bill. And then if that provider doesn't work on an insurance, maybe they're the only ones in your area, um, going with them, you pay it out of cost, out of pocket,
Mm-hmm.
but you can turn in that super bill, and then the insurance will reimburse you if it's something that they cover.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice on how to find a reputable acupuncturist for people who aren't in the area here and can't come run down and see you?
Yeah,
Any tips
there's
on what to look for or questions to ask to make sure they know they're really legit and know what they're doing?
yeah. So, first of all, I would say make sure that they're licensed in the state. Usually, every state has a board, a governing board, and on there they can people can be verified and
Okay.
look for their license. The other thing is making sure that they're certified through the nationally. So if they do that, they should have their certificate for that. Yeah, to be nationally certified, and that'll say whether they're through acupuncture or herbs, because those are two different things.
Okay.
You could be certified in acupuncture, or you can be certified in herbs, or you can be certified in both.
Okay. Gotcha.
So it's there's a little bit of a difference there.
If you go to an acupuncturist and they don't look at your tongue, should you be concerned? Is that an acupuncturist thing that's like a must?
Um, I think it's good, right? Like more information is always good.
Hmm.
Plus, it's fun, right? You get to
Right.
stick your tongue out at somebody. We always get
Right.
told, no, we can't do that. But here's opportunity, right? But there's a lot of information. So the pulse lets us know currently what's going on with somebody um, in this moment, in their present state.
Okay.
And then the tongue lets us know what's been going on in the past, their overall condition. And and the tongue doesn't lie. It's like basketball. We always say that the ball doesn't lie when you play
Hmm.
basketball. The tongue doesn't lie.
What are you looking for? Is it like the color? Is it like
Uh,
stuff in there that we don't really want to know?
well, yeah, I mean, the funny part is a lot of times you get people that come in right after lunch and they're like, "Oh, I just ate," and
Hmm.
as an acupuncturist, you're like, "Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Perfect.
just
Let me
give it
read
to
it.
me." Yeah, yeah, yeah. Or first in the morning, "Oh, I forgot to brush my teeth." You'd be like, "No, that's perfect. Yeah, just let me see it." Um, so yeah, we look at the size, the shape, the color, the coating, the texture that's on there. That's all information to let us know how fluids are moving, how the blood's circulating throughout the body, how the digestion system is. Um, Matter of fact, one of the signs that's actually in for tongue um, diagnosis is they call it in acupuncture we call it wind, but it's a deviated tongue. So that's a
Hmm.
that's a sign of stroke that Western medicine has recently accepted
A sign
as
that you've had a stroke or that it could become
there there's a possibility for that to be happening. Yeah, like they say raise your hands over your head and make sure that the verbal communication is making sense, and then you can look at somebody's tongue,
Hmm.
and that's an indicator. So there's a lot of information and validity that's in the tongue.
Yeah. It's
To
interesting. Our bodies will tell us everything we need to know if we just look for it and
Yeah,
listen, right? Pay attention.
yes, 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 definitely. That's that's the beginning stage, right? So when we start getting that tension in the shoulders, we start experiencing that stress. That's our body telling us, hey, look, you need to take a moment.
Right.
Um, or when we start getting that nervous or that weird feeling in our stomach, the stress in acupuncture, a lot of times that could be like the liver is attacking the stomach.
Hmm.
because you end up noticing that in certain situations that always ends up happening. Another way to explain that is that, oh, you carry your stress in your stomach,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's the body talking to you and telling you, hey, look, you got this is going on. You need to either spend some more time with this to understand it, or um, you know, kind of stay away from there. So then
Right.
that way it's not
Just go
affecting you.
grab the Pepto-Bismol to get rid of it.
Yeah, no band-aids, no band-aids, right?
Right.
The only way we resolve things is we go through. It might be a little difficult, but that's the best way we resolve things.
Yeah, it sure is. Well, is there anything else that you would like to share in regards to acupuncture or Chinese herbs or anything that has to do with self-care that you'd like our audience to know?
Um, Try it.
Right.
Right? That's the number one thing. I would say try it. And it's a new medicine.
Mhm.
It can still awkward or different, but it's starting to make its way into the mainstream
Right.
more. And there's reasons for that. So, it's an effective form that helps manage pain really, really well.
Mhm.
It helps out with sleep, and also helps out with like PTSD. So,
Right.
emotionally, physically, it's a beneficial medicine, and even bigger name organizations are starting to use it. Banner, Mayo,
Right.
they're incorporating it in there because they see the effects.
That's great.
So open mind and willingness to be healthy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you again for coming on the show today and helping us learn a little bit more about a different holistic healing modality. Will you also tell our listeners how they can find you or find more details on what you offer? And I'll put those in the notes as well so people can have that.
yeah, I have a clinic here at Soza Healing House.
Mhm.
And my website is Tortuga Acupuncture. You can look it up on Google,
I'll
and
put it in
everything
the,
will
I'll have it
pull up
written
there.
out so they can see the spelling too.
Yeah. And in, using those that Google, you can
Yeah.
find me on
Just
Google.
find you on Google.
Yeah, yeah. Google has everything, right?
Exactly.
There.
Good old Google. We love
Yeah.
it. All right. Well, thank you to our listeners who tuned in today for our episode of Holistic Health Explained. I am your host, Shantae. Be well, my friends.